And here we go. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you happen to be in the world today. Welcome, one and all, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, to Coffee Talk Live, or at Coffee Talk Live. If you're looking for me on YouTube, as well as Prepper University on YouTube, and at Coffee Talk Chat on X, formerly known as Twitter. And of course, fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta Monday through Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and Friday at noon. So, live portion, of course, takes place on YouTube at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then the rebroadcast, of course, is on Fistful of Radio. So, if you want to catch it live, you go to YouTube. If you want to listen whenever, go to Fistful of Radio. As we get ready to start pounding off into what's going on in the world today, taking a look at some of the news, taking a look at some of the other things, some snippets you may have seen, some things maybe perhaps you did not. As I go ahead and acknowledge some of the people that have chimed in on the live portion. And I do try to read as many comments as is reasonable for those of you who are listening and not able to see what's going on. And I see Helter has joined us today. Dragon is here. Donna Beaver, who reminds people to please thumbs up. Yeah, thank you, Donna. Much appreciated. I see Rodney is here from New Zealand. Velvet Pilot is here. No sound. Can anybody else not hear me? Monkey is here. Semper Fi is here. Raccoon Eyes is here. Brian is here. Glad you could join us as we start to pile in. You see, for those of you who can't see, here is Dusty, knocked out on the chair, looking really comfortable. Hey, Dusty. You don't have to get up on my account. Yeah, I can be heard. Monkey says loud and clear. Martina says they can hear me. All right, very good. And we'll go ahead and get ready to start jumping off into some of what's going on in the news. And I may as well start by insulting your intelligence. Let's insult everybody's intelligence by making a statement that's completely untrue. And this comes from The Messenger. The Messenger, White House on C-19 or C virus mandates. You know, I call it the C virus because I've gotten in a lot of trouble in here. White House on C virus mandates. That's not something we get involved in. It's something they don't get involved in. Boogers says, anyone ready for the snowmageddon? Well, I thought we were supposed to be warming up, Boogers. Apparently, Mother Nature didn't get the memo. And Cruising is here, says Dusty's looking well fed. Yes, we take very good care of our shelter cats. And Urban Angst is here as well. So getting into the article, White House press secretary pushed back on a question about enforcing mask mandates as cases spike. And there she is in her blow-up doll position. I think they capture certain photos on purpose to make people look stupid. Karine Jean-Pierre, the White House's press secretary, said last week that the executive branch would operate with a hands-off approach this C virus and flu season. When asked whether the White House would recommend more hospitals enforce mask orders as cases of both viruses rise across the U.S., Jean-Pierre made it clear that the Biden administration would not pass on any new orders. We've always been very consistent on this, she said Wednesday. This is something that is localized. Hospitals, communities, cities, states, they have to make their own decisions. That's not something we get involved in. Oh, really? Really? The executive branch of the government doesn't get involved. So they did not manipulate Facebook and Twitter and other organizations like that, social media organizations and YouTube, to manipulate a narrative during the C virus. That never happened. Well, of course, we all know it did because it's been exposed quite a bit recently in the media that they did strong arm these social networks to force them to spin a narrative. They did not have mask mandates. They did not try to make federal mandates involving taking the shot. They did not fire federal employees or people in the military for refusing to take the shot. That never happened. They don't get involved. We don't get involved in that kind of stuff. That's local stuff. Oh my God. They don't get involved. That statement right there, she should lose her job. Her words come as an increased number of hospitals are putting the pandemic era policies back into place. Did the hospitals ever really actually stop? I don't think the VA ever stopped with the masks. In New York City, all city-run hospitals reinstated mask mandates last week. Chicago area hospitals operated by Rush University underwent similar measures as well. Jean-Pierre's comments came days before the Center for Disease Control and Prevention reported that the rising JN1 variant is now the dominant strain in the U.S., making up 61% of active C virus cases. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't even care. I don't think it was ever as bad as they told us in the first place, personally. Helter says the most notable thing about her is the range of expressions that cross her face from disaffected to agitated to dismissive to condescending. Masks be upon her. Yeah. Well, I mean, when you're a paid actor, you should be animated. And Henry says, I recall an executive order mandating taking the yeah, exactly, Henry. And that's kind of the point. But according to Jean-Pierre, and this is a quote, we've always been very consistent on this. That is something that is localized. Hospitals, communities, cities, states, they have to make their own decisions. That's not something that we get involved in. Federal government doesn't get involved in that. They don't tell you to take a shot. They don't tell you to wear a mask. They don't order your businesses to close. That doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. Dragon says the rhetoric from this administration is purposefully deceptive and evil. And Donna says my pulmonary doctor still makes you wear a mask. Yeah. And Semper says the two main hospitals in Rochester, New York have mandated that you must wear a mask or there will be no admittance. Those that refuse will be escorted from the property by security or police. That's ridiculous. And Urban says thousands of nurses in British Columbia are still banned from working until they accepted the mystery juice. Many have already left for Alberta, which is providing signing bonuses for nurses fleeing British Columbia. And Gary Smith is here. Glad you could make it, Gary. Yeah, and a lot of people, because of those mandates in public service arena, if you will, doctors, nurses, firefighters, police officers, EMTs, teachers who refused to do it for whatever reason lost their jobs, and it was because of federal mandates that the states were basically enforcing. And we all know this. We all know this, but they're going to lie to us, and we're supposed to just accept it. We're supposed to just accept it, and that's your insulting your intelligence moment for the day. It really is. It's like, we did this to you. We locked you down. We closed your businesses. We threatened you. We forced you to wear a mask. We forced you to get a shot. If you wouldn't do it, we took your job. Oh, but no, we didn't do that. We don't get involved. And that's life, but not as we know it is here. Glad you could make it. They're going to literally sit there and say that they didn't do that. And we all know they did. We all know this is a lie. It's insulting. It's insulting to have these people in government blatantly lying to our faces as if we don't know what's happened or what's going on. That's a scary position to be in as a citizen of any country. They're going to lie right to you, and there's nothing you can do about it. What are you going to do? What are you going to do to Karine Jean-Pierre for saying that? What are you going to do to the executive branch? Vote them out? Get on that right away. I see Bob67 is here. Glad you could make it. And Merv says you must wear a mask and let the corrupt courts change the election rules. Yeah, And Urban says, meanwhile, local medical clinics are no longer taking new patients due to shortages of doctors. Many clinics aren't even accepting walk-ins. No doctors, no nurses left. A lot of them lost their jobs and they're not being replaced. All People says coffee club at the Chateau Coffee, with chat being both English for talk and French for cat, and chateau being French for castle, and Yao being French for water. I probably pronounced that wrong. I probably pronounced it wrong. Also insulting your intelligence, because I'm not done. I'm not done with you. We're going to jump to Philadelphia, or we're going to jump to Pennsylvania, right? Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Local article from the Pennsylvania Inquirer. You may have heard about this. William Penn statue may be permanently removed from Welcome Park, angering residents. Okay. And of course, William Penn is a historical figure, can be considered one of the early founding fathers, apparently a really stand-up guy. But we're going to pull his statue down and we're going to move his house. New plans for the National Park Service to renovate Old City's Welcome Park include removing the centerpiece statue of William Penn permanently and redesigning the park to highlight Native American history, a move that has angered Pennsylvania's Republican leadership. Don't tell me that. It's not just the Republican leadership. Citizens of Pennsylvania, the man on the street, is pretty pissed off about this. The plan is a major shift considering that the park was built on the site of Penn's home, the slate roof house, and is named for the ship Welcome that transported him from England. Penn actually landed first in 1682 near the intersection of the Delaware River and Chester Creek in Chester. Welcome Park is part of the Independence National Historical Park and was completed in 1982 on designs by Venturi and Scott Brown Associates to commemorate the 300th anniversary of Penn's arrival. The wide open park access from the former site of City Tavern aims to tell the story of Penn's vision for the city. Although a lesser-known area of Independence Park, it provides visitors with an overview of the city layout and history of Penn's Landing. The Penn statue includes a farewell ode to Philadelphia, imparting what love, what care, what service, what travel. Here thee been to bring thee forth. And there's the statue. It's not very imposing. That's about the size of the man standing on top of the podium here. The National Park Service wants to rehabilitate the park. They want to tear this down. They want to tear it down and make it native Indian friendly. And for all intents and purposes, William Penn had a very good rapport with the local Indians. He was apparently always fair with them, didn't break any contracts, was a pacifist. The list goes on and on. This is not a guy that you can make an argument was racist, owned slaves, nothing that I can find. Okay? Nothing that I can find. Let me catch up a couple of comments here. All People says, imagine losing your entire committed career due to not wanting to take a mystery jab. Exactly. All that time and money and effort invested, gone, whether you like the job or not, which most nurses don't, or teachers, or policemen. Urban says removal of traditional statues is just another form of iconoclastic protocol. The Greek iconoclasts would immediately deface statues of those cities they took over for reasons of ideology. So this, but again, this is not a person that you can even make an argument that there's really anything negative you can say about the guy. There's not much there. There's not much there. But they're going to pretend that it's offensive and take it down anyways. And this people in Philadelphia, not just Republican lawmakers, born and bred Philadelphians are like, what the hell is the deal with this? Raccoon says fights over statues still going on. Murals to George Floyd, a criminal, remain protected. The world makes no sense. And Rodney says whenever the activist left gets any pushback for their destruction of history, attacks on liberty, etc., they always say it's only Republicans on the far right complaining about it. That's true. And does the park even need renovation? Does it even need it? Can Philadelphia even afford it? Can the Philadelphian taxpayers afford the hundreds of millions of dollars that they'll blow renovating the park that probably is fine just the way it is? Dragon says, who's next? George Washington? Well, technically, George Washington owned slaves. Thomas Jefferson, they're not going to stop until they completely erased American history and replaced it with revisionist BS. And all people, newcomers making demands to remove statues, change names of buildings and streets and regions, not the historic or heritage or indigenous doing this. They want to replace U.S. history. And Urban says it doesn't matter, offensive or not, it belongs to the old order and must be removed to make room for the usual crap. That's about what it boils down to. Because there's really no reason to pull it down. They don't have a legitimate reason. They're trying to make it less offensive to indigenous people. And William Penn is not a person, he Quaker, I think, right? He was a Quaker, was not a threat to or otherwise offensive to the indigenous people of his time. As I understand it, he made honorable contracts with the indigenous people and kept them. He wasn't looking for trouble. Once again, he was a noted pacifist. Helter says, erase the United States history and identity sounds like some communist mischief to me. People better wise up before it's too late. It's kind of already too late. Excuse me. It's kind of already too late because we're deep in this and it's going to take a lot to walk this back. The damage that's been done, it's going to take a more than we've got to walk it back, I think. I like this part. It says representatives for the National Park Service could not be reached for comment Monday. They're seeking public comment on the proposal according to their website. So they are asking for public comment but won't respond to requests. And then here we go. Plans announced Friday call for an expanded interpretation of the Native American history of Philadelphia in consultation with the indigenous nations of the Haudenosaunee, Delaware Nation, Delaware Tribe of Indians, Shawnee Tribe, and the Eastern Shawnee Tribe of Oklahoma. Designs would keep some parts of the current park, including the original Philadelphia street grid. Oh, you're not going to move the streets. That's fun. That's great. But the Penn statue and slate roof house model will be removed and not reinstalled. If you're going to do it anyways, why ask for public opinion? Why ask for public opinion if you're just going to go ahead and do it anyways without any regard to what people think about it? Yeah, I don't know what to say about that. That's a shame. That's a shame. You know, of all the founding fathers you could pick on, if you will, the founder of Philadelphia, it was his city, basically. He was the man. I don't know if they have an actual picture of him. He looks like the guy off of the Quaker Oats box. Oh, look at this. 2020 Enquirer article chronicled a trip by 6 women from the Iroquois Confederacy in upstate New York to reconnect with the patch of tribal land on the site of Welcome Park. These Native American women came to Philadelphia to see their ancestral land. They found apartments and a parking garage. That's everywhere, buddy. Oh, and there's bingo. That's everybody. They came there looking for trouble is what they came there for, if they actually thought they were going to find a forest in Philadelphia. Oh. But, that's not necessarily, again, a reflection on all indigenous people. Keep in mind that William Penn landed his ship in that area in 1682. It's quite a long time ago. But again, it's not a reflection on all Native Indians, if you will, but the Native Indian activists are some of the worst. And they go looking for trouble. Oh, I came and I wept at Philadelphia because there's apartment buildings where my people used to be, and it's not even your people. And what did you think you were going to find? You came there so you could cry about it on camera. Meanwhile, the rest of the people you claim to represent don't even care. They don't even freaking care. It's embarrassing, is what it is. It's embarrassing. Now, here's an article. I want to share this. We talk about food from time to time, and I wanted to read to you about this company. And who is this? I'm trying to remember the name of this. It's Redefined Meat, I think, is this article. Redefined Meat. It's a company called Redefined Meat. And this is some scary mess right here. Urban says, I would post that many of the Native activists have no more Native blood than regular evil white folks. A lot of them don't. And Merv says they're going to put up a statue of Anthony Johnson. Are they? Well, no, they need a... Oh, man. Don't get me started. Anyway, Redefined Meats. And you see this steak that they got here. This is not a steak. This is 3D printed meat. It's 3D printed meat. It's fake. Okay? Kind of fake. Kind of sort of fake. Kind of sort of like Frankenstein's monsters, laboratory grown, God knows what the hell this is what you're looking at here. Okay? So here we go. Welcome to the future. A factory in the Netherlands 3D prints 500 tons, okay, of steaks per month. Redefined Meat Company will supply German restaurants with printed fillets. Approximately 110 German restaurants are already buying meat from Redefined Meat. To begin the 3D printed meat process, get ready for this. Now, you can go to Redefined Meat's website, and they kind of classify themselves as a meat alternative, vegetable-based. And I'm going to tie that in here in a second and explain something that's not mentioned in this part. It says to begin the 3D printed meat process, scientists biopsy a batch sample of animal stem cells, depending on the desired type of meat, beef, pork, poultry, or even fish. These cells then undergo an in vitro proliferation process, bathing in a nourishing, nutrient-dense serum with a climate-controlled bioreactor. Over the course of sounds tasty, doesn't it? Over the course of several weeks, these cells multiply, interact, and differentiate into the fat and muscle cells that make up bio-ink. Then a robotic arm uses a nozzle to dispense this paste-like cultured meat filament in fine layers atop one another. The arm follows the instructions of an uploaded digital file using computer-aided design or CAD software in order to replicate the correct shape and structure of the intended meat. 3D printed meat material must be viscous yet firm enough to reproduce a structural model complete with accurate tissue vascularization, depending upon the type and cut of meat. So what they do is they take animal stem cells and put it through a replicating process in a plant-based protein bath. That's where the plant-based part comes from. And then as it cultures, it turns into a sludge that they're able to inject through a 3D printer to make something that's steak-ish. Is it meat or is it vegetable? Is he man or machine? I don't know how you would classify this. Excuse me. Still a little bit of a sore throat from when I was sick. I apologize for the distraction. They're selling 500 tons of this to German restaurants per month. That's just German restaurants. Never mind the other places that they're selling this product to. I don't know how many other places they're selling this to, but they do package for supermarkets also under the Redefined Meat brand. And like I said, you can look them up. You can look up Redefined Meat and look at their main website. Actually, I can go ahead and pull it up for you if you want to see it. For those of you who can see. And this is Redefined Meat's primary advertising. And there you see the package. That's the stuff that's available in the supermarket. But I'm like, is it, if you've cultured the vegetable protein, whatever kind of vegetable protein you're using, I don't know because they don't tell you. If you're cultured the vegetable protein with animal stem cells to create an artificial flesh sludge, it's like a jello before they process it with the 3D printer, is it still vegetable matter? Or is it some kind of weird laboratory flesh? I don't know what to say. Cruising says it's sci-fi meat. Yeah, no kidding. Meat fruit. It's meat fruit, like on Thundercats. Helter says this is one of those things where I have to say I just don't know. It sounds great, cheaper meat, no animal has to die, more efficient, better for environment, question mark. But there's lots of unknown variables. Yeah, because it sounds like a GMO nightmare. You don't know what kind of weird chemical or genetic process has been included to make this work that we're also eating. Well, not me, but you know what I mean. That we're also eating, people are also eating, and not knowing what the long-term effects of those other chemical or genetic processes might be. Urban says 3D printed meat sounds like any other processed meat product with a few cellular tweaks, not which isn't creepy at all. Yeah, no kidding. And Raccoon says that's gross. Gross. And also KFC's doing this too, but only in China so far as I know. KFC's been 3D printing chicken there for a couple of years now. Gary Edwards says Soylent Green is people. No kidding. And Soylent Pink must be Redefined Meat. Rodney says I classify it as freaking creepy. And Dragon says this screams Soylent to me. You know they want to kill us when they mess with the food supply. And Anarchy is here from rural Minnesota. Glad you could make it, Anarchy. Raccoon says Aldi is a German company, so watch the labels if you shop there. I thought Aldi's was from Spain. They're German? I could be wrong. And Gary Edwards said bug protein. No, that's a different division. No, they said vegetable-based protein. They didn't say bug protein. Excuse me. Although the bug protein would probably be cheaper. And Cruising says, I don't understand why they're aiming for steak like this. The real money would be in sausage, burger, and pre-made foods. Most people don't read labels, and who would notice the difference in a sausage? Nobody. They don't know what the hell's in a sausage now. The other thing that kills me too, if you want to be vegetarian or vegan, why do you want to eat simulated meat? Why do you want, I mean, I'm not above eating a veggie burger, okay? Because they got what, black bean burger. I've had black bean burgers. They're all right. But I'm not interested in eating a veggie burger that really tastes like a real meat. Like Beyond, is it Beyond Beef? Or Beyond Meat, right? They have one, it's they GMO processed it so that it bleeds and everything. If I don't want meat anymore, I don't want that experience. So who are you pandering to? All People says 3D meat is an acronym that stands for die, die, die. Morons eating atrophied trash. Is it? Urban says, I'm not a biologist, but I'm pretty sure that the only part of a plant with protein would be in the seeds. There are issues with seed products, especially seed oil and based food. And all, okay. Gary Edwards says, Kreutzfeldt Jacobson packaged for sale. And Cruising says, make any veggie burger even more tasty by adding a second patty made with 100% ground sirloin. Oh my God. Shame on you all. But wanted to share that. We talk about food off and on. It's a pet peeve of mine. I hate how we waste so much of it. I hear it constantly in the media about we have to have a plan to keep people from being hungry in America or wherever. You know, I hear it mostly about America, but yeah, you get it. Oh, there needs to be a plan in place and government needs to talk about this and our lawmakers that no. How about you don't throw the damn food away? We throw away from farm to restaurant or farm to supermarket 60% of what we produce, roughly, globally, not just the US and not just capitalist societies. Every country does this. They when the market doesn't look right, they throw it away, and they don't even have a recycling program for it. It's just being destroyed. It's being wasted. They dump milk. They throw away beef. They destroy entire crop yields. It's a waste. We waste more of it. If they really wanted to keep people from being hungry, they would find a better way than throwing it out when the market price changes. You know what I mean? All People says they've blended tomatoes with human cells since the late 1980s. So with that, we're going to hop, skip, and jump to California. And this is something that has come up, and now we're just confirming it. This is an article from the Washington Examiner. California to financially cover gender surgeries for illegal immigrants. There it is. It's official. The state of California has become the first state. Oh, they love being first, don't they? To financially cover transmogrification surgeries for illegal immigrants thanks to a state program. Thank God. I was so worried. The program called Medi-Cal will allow around 700,000 illegal immigrants between the ages of 26 to 49 to be financially covered when receiving gender surgery. It comes after then Governor Jerry Brown signed a law to allow illegal immigrant children to qualify for Medi-Cal in 2015, which was then expanded for 4 years later by Governor Gavin Newsom to adult migrants, according to a state memo analyzed by the Daily Caller. Gender-affirming care is covered under Medi-Cal benefits when medically necessary. How do you deem that to be medically necessary? Oh, gee, I absolutely have to have my nuts cut off. A state memo read, requests for gender-affirming care should be from specialists experienced in providing culturally competent care to transmogrified and gender diverse individuals and should use nationally recognized guidelines. You can't trust these people. They just want a paycheck. Newsom's office explained that the expanded health coverage was deserved for all state residents, regardless of income or immigration status. Through this expansion, we're making sure families and communities across California are healthier. Healthier? Healthier. This is healthier. This is the healthier choice. Stronger and able to get the care they need when they need it, according to a statement given to ABC News. That's going to make you healthier. You're going to need medication and surgical adjustments the rest of your life. That's healthier. Did I miss something? 700,000 people. 700,000 people. So now I can come here from another country, feign asylum seeking to get my free gender surgery. get my free gender surgery courtesy of the state of California and their taxpayers. And they're sitting here quoting a number as high as 700,000 that the taxpayers are going to pay for. And I'm looking it up, and it's saying that all in, gender surgery can cost as much as $63,000. And that's not counting the medications. How the hell are the taxpayers going to afford that? Merv says Bill Gates is going to get rich off of this. I assume you're talking about the farming. Yeah, I don't know if he's 3D printing anything, but yeah. And Gary Edwards says whack a pepper, I guess. Yeah. Loyal says the proper term is adactyctomy. Urban says at least they can't reproduce after all those hormones and surgeries and mutilations. Yeah, if you've gone the full length of the surgery, you will not be reproducing. You will not be reproducing anything. Dragon says the dark forces who are pushing this have not yet connected the dots. People with mutilated genitals cannot reproduce exactly. Therefore, their great replacement efforts will ultimately be in vain. And All People says most Western farmers and restaurants and supermarkets are penalized if they don't throw out perfectly good food, produce, meat, and dairy products. It's the same in the second, third, and even fourth world nations. Yeah, correct. And that's basically what I was talking about. You know, they're encouraged. They're encouraged to be wasteful. Then they all complain of hunger. They all complain about not enough food. There's plenty. We make more than we could possibly use and then throw it away. And that's every country. Urban says there's clearly a plan to destroy the country by sucking out all the money. Once everything's gone, no war is needed to take over the land. I hope I'm wrong. Gary Edwards says, grab your wallet and cough, please. Exactly. And Cruising says, well, if they're turning themselves into sterile freaks with fake tits, maybe they won't be attacking the women. You hope. I don't know what to say about that, but I'm offended by the idea. 63,000 at the top of the surgery. And it says here the cost of surgeries are solely cosmetic and might not be covered by insurance. I'm glad you point out that it's solely cosmetic. By admitting that it's solely cosmetic, you're admitting in a way that there's no actually turning into another gender. You're not actually going to become a female because you lost your twigs and berries. It isn't going to happen. You're not going to have a baby. Okay? That won't happen. If you've undergone surgery and you didn't finish your surgery and you got pregnant, you are not a pregnant man. That's not how it works. But they're talking around 700,000 illegal immigrants that they want to provide services for. Do they have 700,000 people in California that are illegal immigrants using to abuse Medi-Cal to get cosmetic surgery to change their gender appearance that regular insurance won't pay for? Where do those numbers come from? I want to know. I want to know. Urban says, who needs biological women when 3D printed meat women will soon be available? 3D. Well, they do have those dolls, right? Those it's like a mannequin, but it's made out of silicone. They have those already. I heard they're pretty expensive though. Brian says, I'll take the food if they don't want it. Who knows what those are called? I know they have like life-size human dolls that are silicone that people use for that purpose. That's crazy. Yeah, I don't blame you, Brian. I have a huge pet peeve about people disposing of food. It really bothers me. That really bothers me. But while we're on the subject of transmogrified people, one more here. Merv says, I've been paying for my health insurance for years, and they're going to have it for coming here illegally. Yeah, they're going to have it for free for coming illegally. And I see WCM has joined us. Glad you could make it here today as we get ready to roll into the next topic, which kind of ties in to a point. Fox News, UN Women's Group crowns pro-Palestinian transmogrified woman to be their champion and sparking outrage. You think? The United Kingdom wing of the UN Women faced backlash after announcing that a pro-Palestinian transmogrified model would be its champion of women. Do they have a picture of this person? I want to see it. Monroe Bergdorf was selected as the first UN Women UK champion in November. However, 17 women's groups took notice and penned an open letter January 2nd expressing concern about the appointment. The female population of the UK is more than 33 million, yet you have ignored every one of us and chosen a male, the letter addressed to UN Women Executive Director Sima Bauhus, the UN Women Executive Committee, and the UN Women UK Committee said. That's a mouthful. Can't they acronym that? The letter was signed by groups such as Fair Play for Women, LGB Alliance, Sex Matters, and Women's Declaration International UK Division. Monroe Bergdorf's well-publicized activism is not pro-women, the letter continued. Other critics, such as Douglas Murray, blasted the main UN women's group for yet another example of bad decision-making by the international body. What bad decision-making from the United Nations? Say it isn't so. I don't believe it. They do everything perfectly. Other critics, such as Douglas Murray, blasted the main UN women's group for yet another example of bad decision-making. Seems to be this group has a problem with reality, Murray said on a Talk TV. Murray also raised concerns about how UN women dragged its feet for nearly 2 months before explicitly condemning Hamas's brutal rape of women. I want to see if I can find a picture of this person, and I'm going to share it for those of you who can see. Let me see if I can find this guy. Yeah, I've got something here. I'll pull it up, and I'll show you what they look like, and you tell me. But this is the way they do things now. That's the guy in question. That's the new champion of United Kingdom women, Mr. Bergdorf. Cruising says they're real dolls and they're adding AI and animatronics into them. Are you talking about the mannequins, right? That's weird. That's the ultimate tier masturbation, I guess. Urban says, and they pretty much sums up the UN, which is basically an anti-Israel Iran proxy. I couldn't have picked a better champion to represent them. Merv says they had such a cute mustachio they couldn't control her deep sexual desire. Yeah. That looks better right there, but that's a lot of makeup. You can tell that's a lot of foundation all the way down the neck and everywhere. But this, oh wow, that's bad. That one, you can really see the mannishness in that one. But anyways, I can't help it. I can't help it because I don't approve. I really don't. And those women's groups are right. You got 33 million women in the UK. This is obviously a very political decision. Any decision the UN makes would have been a political one, but at least make a political decision that half-assed makes sense. This is insulting. This is insulting to women's groups. Women don't feel championed by a man pretending to be a woman, being a better woman than you are. Okay? They don't like that. They don't like it. They don't want it. It doesn't work. Gary Edwards says the wicked trans witch of the West needs more trans winkle guards. And Helter says, sums up the UN. They're not content at being completely useless and irrelevant. They instead work towards being actively harmful. And Urban says, I recognize that guy with the fake blonde dreadlocks. First of all, he's appropriating blonde hair. Second, wasn't he disgraced in the UK and dumped by their bosses for making awful statements? I'm not sure really who this person is. I'm not familiar with them. But the fact that they're vocally being pro-Palestinian anyways is already rubbing a lot of people the wrong way. Raccoon says, why are we giving these mental patients all this power? To undermine the fabric of society, taking us apart from the inside out. They've already crushed the nuclear family. There's not much left. But they may as well crush us completely, wipe us off the face of the earth. And by the way, as much as you would like to hear that this was going to happen, sweet old, dear old, lovable old Uncle Joe's not going anywhere anytime soon. Boy, they really caught him off guard with that photograph. I love how they do that. They do it on purpose. They don't make you look good in photos anymore. I mean, he really looks dopey as I don't know what in that image right there. I mean, where's the banjo? Banjo and bare feet, I'm telling you. This is from State of the Union. And this, of course, is more pandering to the masses to try to coerce votes. Because remember, you can't buy a vote. You can do things for people, like the student loan forgiveness. You can try to do things for people. Doesn't mean they're going to vote for you, but it is coercion. This is more of that. Joe Biden gives federal bureaucrats biggest pay hike in 4 decades. Thanks, Joe. Where's my raise? President Joe Biden signed an order giving federal bureaucrats the largest pay hike in 4 decades, with close to 2.2 million federal bureaucrats receiving pay increases averaging 5.2%. The U.S. military will also receive a similar increase in the National Defense Authorization Act. The Biden administration's support for unions representing federal workers and continued telework policies has been noted, along with efforts to prevent a policy ordered by former President Donald Trump. According to the Washington Post, the generous raise is likely to continue the partnership that the Biden White House has forged with the unions representing federal workers. The administration has supported continued telework policies across most of the government that accelerated during the C virus pandemic, and hiring has intensified at many agencies. While federal bureaucrats will receive the pay hike, private citizens are expected to receive an average salary increase of 4% in 2024. So all the good old boys that are in bed with the unions linked to the current executive branch administration got the biggest raise in 40 years. The labor market remains tight, requiring competitive merit increases to retain good workers. There you go. And there's Jean-Pierre again. There's Jean-Pierre again running her mouth. There we go. Bingo says, back in the early 2000s, we were forced to accept that community and whole to the point that we accepted them in positions of power. Now there is more of them in power than normal people, and we will never get them out without a fight. And Urban says that was in 2017 in London, UK, talking about that Woman of the Year. Woman of the Year. Yeah, so-called Woman of the Year, woman's representation. So now we're passing out raises to unions that are in bed with the executive branch. No coercion there. And then I'll tie that to this article, which is total hogwash. Also talking about sweet old, dear old, lovable old Uncle Joe. And this is absolutely pandering. And this is from Financially Plus. 10 ways Biden has created a strong economy. Oh, they found a good photo of him for this article. And this is one of those things, a fluff piece that they're putting out because as it stands, he is still running for re-election. They haven't thrown him out for Michelle Obama or anything yet. And I flipped through this and I looked at it. I'm not going to read the whole thing because there's no point. But the points that they have are all places where money has been wasted. Like American Rescue Plan Act, enacted in March 2021, the 1.9 trillion relief package aimed to address economic challenges by providing direct stimulus payments, extending unemployment benefits, supporting state and local governments, and funding vaccine distribution. And then the next one, Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. Legislation allocated 1.2 trillion for the critical investments in physical infrastructure such as roads, bridges, broadband, and public transit. None of that money got spent on any of those projects. It's still up in committees. Every one of these is the government spending money or investing in committees to study where to spend money. That's not creating a strong economy. You're not creating a strong economy by frivolously spending tax money. But this is the type of articles you can expect to see a lot of as we get closer and closer to election time. WCM says his student loan didn't get forgiven. College was a joke, worthless degrees. Yeah, I feel like I wasted my time too. And most of you already know my student loan story and why I won't pay it now. H12 is here. Glad you could make it. Merv says they'll wipe us out if we let them be strong and call someone who cares. And WCM says criminals in government. It sure looks that way, but you can't call them criminals. You can't. But this is a fluff piece article. See, education and workforce development, spending more money on committees. That's all that is. Increased support for small businesses. Actually, you closed down most small businesses in America with the pandemic requirements. You shuttered small businesses and allowed the big ones to stay open. Walmart didn't close, did it? Target didn't close. Extension of unemployment benefits. You already cited that. You extended unemployment benefits. That's more tax money. All this, it's all showcasing wasting of tax money. But these are supposed to be making a strong economy, and we do not have a strong economy. I'm sorry. All you have to do is look around and you can see that. So I catch up a couple here. Gary Edwards says Biden is so old he doesn't use makeup. It's more like claymation. Really? And That's Life says these political entities are worse than criminals. And WCM says they still give small businesses a hard time. It is hard. It's very hard. It's very hard for small businesses. They don't have the capital to stay afloat very often. And Brian made a $20 donation to the channel. Thank you, Brian. Very much appreciated. Very much appreciated. Always appreciate it when somebody reaches out and takes the time to help the channel out. And by default, of course, helping all of our critters that we take care of. Dusty thanks you. You see her sitting in the chair back there still. Merv says that's a great comparison with that Deliverance reference. And Joe, I see it clearly. He kind of does look like the Deliverance kid. It's creepy. And That's Life says same thing happened in Scotland. Most first world nations, most westernized countries went through that, including Israel, which is a westernized country at this point, which is why they're having such a hard time in the Middle East. They shuttered their people up really bad. As we shift around to the next article, we're going to talk about Eric Adams. We're going to jump to New York. And it says, and this is an article, who the hell wrote this? Fox News again. And New York City Mayor Eric Adams calls out Los Angeles homelessness and says no fires burning on the street in his city. Okay, so once again, Eric Adams is going to make fun of the plights of a mayor in another city. Remember what happened the last time he did that? Now he's up to his eyeballs in illegal immigrants. New York City Mayor Eric Adams showed off a photo of the Los Angeles homelessness crisis to reporters during a press conference. This is another city in America, Adams told reporters Wednesday, revealing a picture of a homeless encampment in Los Angeles' Skid Row neighborhood. Adams said that he took the picture when he was driving around Los Angeles in 2022. Was he out there? This is when you throw up your hands, Adams said. Fires burning on the street, children out here, there are no toilets. Adam called on reporters to visit other cities and compare his leadership with that of other cities facing increased homelessness. Dude, never showboat by comparing yourself to other cities because you're about a heartbeat away from looking like Los Angeles right now. Quote again, go look at other cities and look at what we inherited when I put in place our homeless encampments task force, Adams said. You don't see this in New York. Yeah, you kind of do, actually, Eric. Plus, you're blaming your previous administration. Look what we inherited. Blaming the previous administration, poking fun at other cities is not the way to demonstrate that you're doing your job. The mayor rejected criticism from those who claimed that he was being too harsh on migrants. And there are those who say, quote again, I'm harsh because I don't allow this to exist, Adams continued. That's what I'm fighting against. Do you want this in front of your house? Do you want your children to see this? Is this what you want your children to see? Not while I'm mayor. It's not going to happen. It is happening, Adams. It is happening. You got people lined up on your streets. You've got hotels, wrecked hotels, and office buildings loaded with illegal immigrants that are destroying the places. You've got high crime. You've got people sleeping in park benches. But you're going to point at Los Angeles and say, well, it's not that bad yet. WCM says, truly is the greatest show on earth, bread and circuses. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And I'm sure most of you know that reference. And that's Life Says NATO Stan. NATO Stan. New Yorkistan. New Yorkistan. Call it the Big Camel instead of the Big Apple. Because most of the immigrants, of course, are not from South America. They're from the Middle East. They're from Africa. They're from the islands. They're from China. And New York taxpayers are paying for their comfort and well-being. You don't have fires in the streets. Are you sure? Have you been through the New York streets recently? I've seen images of it. It looks pretty bad. Just because it's too cold for people to be schlepping around like they do in San Francisco and Los Angeles doesn't mean it isn't going on, Adams. Do you really want to be poking fun at another city? I remember once upon a time when he used to make fun of cities in Texas and New Mexico and Arizona for not having a handle on their immigrant crisis. Now look how New York is. It didn't take much. And Eric Peters says, after a decade, I'd had it with Los Angeles, and my wife and I are moving back to my hometown in upstate New York, not New York City. Well, keep in mind, they're trying to push people from the major hubs in New York upstate to force the smaller communities to accommodate them. So watch out. Watch out for that. Gary Edwards says the left grants squatters' rights to illegal immigrants. Pretty much. That's what's been going on. And with that, we are at the top of the hour. So I'm going to go ahead and start wrapping things up. Again, this is Coffee Talk, or at Coffee Talk Live on YouTube, as well as Prepper University on YouTube, or at Coffee Talk Chat on X, formerly known as Twitter, as well as Fistful of Radio. That's fistfulofradio.com. Podcasting out of Atlanta Monday through Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and Friday at noon. Thanks again to Brian for making a donation to the channel. again, always appreciated. Goes a long way. And thanks to everyone else who was able to join us here today and be part of the conversation. And we hope to see you again tomorrow.